Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sunderland Selectboard Meeting, and we'd like to call to order at 7:03 p.m. We have an appointment at 7 o'clock for the assessors, but they're a few minutes late, so I think we'll skip down to review our minutes from the last meeting.
Motion on the minutes of December 2nd to accept as presented.
I guess I'll have to second it, huh?
No choice.
Yeah. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
All right, 2-0 for the minutes. And I'll be taking the place of Margaret for minutes this evening because Margaret is absent, so. All right. That knocks off our minutes. And a couple of things on the agenda tonight will not be happening. That will be, I'll kind of run through those now. That'll be the 7:30 p.m. Fire Chief Heart Safe Community Award item and the FY14 Sewer Commitment one. And I see the assessors have arrived. Are you waiting for anybody else, or?
Mary Ann, yeah,
Okay.
she's here this
All
evening.
right.
You didn't wait for the other assessor? You didn't help her up the stairs?
Elevator.
Elevator.
Oh, okay. Hello.
So you're gonna have to convene the hearing, Dave. Classification.
Right. You guys all ready? All right.
All ready?
All right. We'll need to do we have to read through something specific for that, though?
No, you just
Okay.
have to,
All right.
just call classification.
All right, I'd like to call the assessor's classification hearing to order at 7:05 p.m. All right. You guys wanna do your annual,
Sure. The Assessors Board of Sunderland, we're looking at a single tax rate, that's 1%, for fiscal year 14. It seems it works out well for the town with a single tax rate instead of a split rate. That would put a good burden on the commercial property and farmland property that we have in town. So we would like a single tax rate, fiscal year 14.
Have you ever considered, Jim, maybe doing a single tax rate for the entire town, then anybody that lives within 300 feet of the town hall would get a special 10% additional? Oh, Mr. Weston, you're here tonight.
Is that a vote?
Increase, and not
all those in
decrease.
favor?
No, wait a minute, I thought you said a decrease.
No, increase, there,
I'll
Mr.
take you with 301 feet away.
Not 301, actually.
So we'll just have to keep that on the back burner, so when you guys come to talk to us next, huh?
Yeah,
Have you heard any, I mean, when you look at your assessments, have you seen any big change in the assessments between commercial, industrial, and residential? Are we still maintaining that same?
The ratio is the same. This year, the total tax valuation of the property in Sunderland has gone down a little bit, the way it's set up. And we're projecting that that's about 0.92%. And that's overall, including the residential, commercial, industrial, and the personal property. Personal properties went up a little bit. But the commercial industrial
Went down.
really got hit. So when you look at that, and we're mostly a residential town, it's very tough to try to think of having multi-rate in Sunderland. So that's why we're recommending what Jimmy just mentioned, a single tax rate again, which is a residential factor of 1. And we do have, what else was there? Yeah, well, with the valuation going down, we do have taxations that we have to raise. What we'll raise from our taxes will be about 3%, a little bit over 3. And the tax rate, we're projecting hopefully without changes, be $13.98 if we don't have any changes. Right now, that's before FY proposed for 14. Anything can happen when we get to the Department of Revenue, but this is what we're getting comfortable with. FY rate currently, we're at $13.43.
What was it, 13, what was the proposed one?
$13.43.
Right, for
And if
current.
everything goes well, the proposed rate will be $13.98.
1398, okay. Still pretty low comparison to
Yes.
our surrounding
Well,
towns.
if you go to percentages, it gives you that tax rate will probably average about 4%.
And our percentage between commercial and residential isn't likely to
This,
change a lot, so in the future.
no, and we factored it, also some time ago, we had that special town meeting, about 94,000 was, so this is all been figured in, and
Right.
this is where we're at, so
Okay.
that's what we wanted to tell you, and our recommendation.
I know we talked about it before, but sometimes we get new listeners, audience. Questions have been about the apartments, why residents think that they're commercial. Would you be able to speak about that, Mr. Assessors?
Well, it's residential. We classify it as residential. They are collecting fees for apartment space, but we value it as residential, or classified as residential.
Okay.
Again, there'd be a big difference between residential and commercial if we had a split tax rate. With the few mom and pop commercial businesses we have in town,
That's
it's
right,
unfair.
yeah.
We want to keep it at one single tax rate.
Yeah, I think the question tends to be more like, why isn't the apartments done at a commercial versus, not so much the split rate, but like, why do you, rate them as commercial versus residential? That's what some people, you know what I mean? Like, why is it classified that way? I think I've heard that come up a few times too, that question.
I think that's how, you're not given a choice in it. I think that's how it's required, I believe that's how they're required to be.
That's
By the
how the
state.
DOR, that's the rules of the DOR.
Right.
Department of Revenue.
Can't treat it as a business as such in that respect.
And also farmland would be classified as commercial if we had a split tax rate. That hurt the farmers.
That would, yep. That's true.
You wanna see if anybody?
I was just gonna say, any questions from the public back there? No? We can't take questions online, so we can't do that. Not yet, that's right.
Not yet.
All right.
Oh, if all goes well, the tax bills probably will be out before the first of the year.
Good.
So, we're at the right time to get this done next few days, and everybody in the town our paperwork is done, and everyone else is pretty much up to sit with it, and should be on our way. I do have a classification paper that you decide on
We need to sign.
residential, that you
Yep.
have to sign. We've shown to Wendy, and she's certified that we've did the proper advertising that we're supposed
Okay.
to do in the paper, and
Want to bring up, we can sign
I'll
that?
give you that one.
We'll do that right now.
Okay.
Then you can just take it back downstairs.
We should read this, David.
Yeah,
We don't know.
And I'll read our legal notice here from, I can't tell if it's the Gazette, it was either the Gazette or the
Recorder.
Republican, probably the Recorder, yeah. Let's see. Legal notice, Town of Sunderland tax classification hearing. The Board of Selectmen, Board of Assessors will hold a property tax classification hearing on Monday, December 9th, 2013 at 7 PM in the Sunderland Town Offices, second floor conference room, 12 School Street, for the purpose of deciding whether there will be a single or split tax rate for the fiscal year 2014. The final tax rate is not determined at this meeting. All interested parties are invited to attend. And there's all the interested parties, so.
You just ask if there's any other,
Yeah.
then we close the hearing, then
Yeah,
we have to vote.
Does anybody have any other questions at all? Tonight? No? Okay, and we're gonna close the hearing then at 7:14 PM. Right down here, I guess, huh?
I make a motion that we take the recommendation to assessors and have a single tax rate, option 1 for fiscal year 14.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Okay. Sign that.
Put that in your records.
Okay, you guys want this? All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
All right, thanks.
Thank
Have a
you,
good night.
assessors.
You bet.
You as well.
We're a little late for you guys. The next up is the Sunderland Telecommunications Committee recommendations. We got a couple of things on the docket, right? We got the website and the server, right?
I agree with you. David, did you and Tom get the, like, email to Margaret, recommendations,
I did, yeah, hang on.
copy of it and everything? I sent her an email with our recommendations on it.
From your last meeting, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tom, did you get one, copy of it?
I read it, Bruce.
You got it,
Okay.
okay.
Don't,
Do you want me
don't
to
agree
go-
with it, but I
Well, as long as you read it. Do you want to go through
Yeah, let's, yeah.
one at a time?
Yep.
Okay, and this was the last meeting, last Thursday night. We voted to fund the VTH with an implementation date of April 1st. Roughly January, February, March, 3 full months.
Yep.
Figuring that's when we
Give them
started.
enough time.
Be enough time to get it up and running. Recommended for the design team, website team, Tom Zimnoski, Richie Wheeler, Jim Tower, David Pierce, and Margaret Nartowitz. And I noted on there, I felt that was a good overall coverage of all the town's needs for technical aspects as well as the design and implementation.
Yep.
The third item, we voted to pay community media visioning $463.64 for the FCAT consulting services. That was our part of the percentage.
Yep.
Consulting. And the last one, we decided to table the funding of the server replacement. Variety of reasons. One thing I did, I went through the Comcast contract that's online, and I couldn't find any definitive articles in there dealing strictly with equipment replacement, other than obvious things, you know, if our cameras or our broadcast equipment went out, obviously we'd have to
Yep.
replace that, but there was nothing in regard to the computer equipment. And a bunch of questions came up, and I'm still not sure that town hall server comes under the umbrella of our equipment obligations. Margaret did email me. She said, you know, we use it to contact Comcast and pay bills through them and everything, which I
Yep.
understand, but that's, I think, a little bit of a stretch. I mean, any computer, you're gonna do that. And there was other questions that came up in regard to, would this start the ball rolling or set a precedent for replacing other computers in town that, when they fail? And here again, we just didn't feel
Well,
it came.
we wanna do one at a time, Bruce? The
Yeah.
answer to that would be no. That's not what.
Right.
The
Well, these
the server is for the entire town hall, and I think David can explain to you a lot of the things that the server's used for.
Well, I understand that. I'm just saying, these are different things that we explored in our conversation.
Mhm.
These
Yeah,
are
and I just wanted,
questions we had.
you know, I
Uh,
think if your first point was about, is it gonna be for computers, replacement of computers, the answer is no.
Okay.
That's not, the server's not a.
We have a
and you know-
technology fund for that.
Right.
I
Right.
understand. I don't know how much money's in it, but I understand that
I
that's
think-
available.
And I think that's one of the things that we need to look at better going into the
Right.
next year is our technology stuff.
Well, I read the report, the DOR report
Yep.
on the equipment needs, and that's one thing they talk about is moving it, getting it in a more secure place, and doing the necessary upgrades and maintenance that needs, and whatever.
Right.
Another point we brought up that we talked about, and maybe this has been done or talked about, I don't know, but we saw the estimate for the repair and replacement of this and the upgrade,
Yep.
and we're wondering, maybe there's other things that could be done. I know it crashes and they have to restart it during the day, reboot it, but have they explored possibly looking at components such as
Yeah.
just the hard drive, just the power supply, just the UPS?
Yep, and I noticed Cindy sent back an email to our tech guy to look at that. I think one of the
Okay.
issues is we're really on its last legs.
Yeah,
And I think they've had a number of those things replaced in the past.
they have.
And yeah,
Okay,
and
we
I'm-
didn't know that, but these were questions that came up.
Yeah, and this thing is, I wanna say at least 6 years old,
Mhm.
at least, and like in dog years, that's about 100, you
Right.
know? I mean, it's really on its last legs.
Okay,
I think that's, and we're really concerned with bringing like critical operations in the town to a halt. That's like the big
yeah.
big concern with that. So,
Well, like I say, I'm still not convinced that it really comes under the umbrella of STC equipment maintenance. It's not directly involved with broadcasting the community channel. It's not involved in uploading things up to FCAT.
Yep.
You might say it's a gray area, but I don't think it's directly involved in the STC, provisioning of equipment.
No.
That's our opinion anyway.
you wanna add something?
No, I wanna work with Margaret and see if we'll bill the STC for the original, expense of contract negotiations were well in excess of $8,000 that came out of the town. I think we, you know,
We get the next round too, right?
yeah. But I think the server does more, than, you know, and again, I go back to original question. The original question was that you don't wanna replace computers or
Right, like
Technology.
general operating equipment, yeah.
and I don't think the server is that component. I think, to comply with the state, when we're looking at the state, we don't have an option about how we can't send the state paper any longer, let's put it that way.
Right, a lot of the stuff's really being
It
pushed
has to
off to
go.
electronic.
It has to go electronically, so. We can look at the,
Yeah, some other options and,
no, we'll look,
Old stuff.
I believe with Margaret, I still think the PEG money could be utilized. We'll just ask Margaret to talk with council and
Yeah,
see what
and
their
so we can
Well,
recommendation is.
I actually I tried to get hold of Aaron Sanders about that.
Yep.
And I just discovered his telephone number on the DOT report.
Okay.
Prior to that, I was gonna try to get a hold of Glanville's office down in Springfield, who's their legal counsel.
Yep.
I couldn't, they're pretty well isolated. There's no number that I could find.
I don't know if he still does that.
I don't know, I'm not sure. He's listed on in the contract, but
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Jimmy, you had a question?
Yeah.
I do have a question,
Shoot.
what else, other than the accounting software, what is that server used for?
I think it's pretty much the backbone of everything in here. I know, we're gonna be using it for like GIS and everything too.
I mean, is that where everything is being stored for the assessor's office and
Yeah,
when the town clerk and Margaret?
all those
their
guys.
offices, when they do all their scans, it ends up being stored on there,
That's like the backbone of the whole system, really, yeah.
but it's just a storage server, correct? Storage
Um,
application server?
I would say, well, yeah,
Well-
typical server use, they should be running the apps off there, and then everybody, in theory, should be storing their stuff on the server, because if you're storing locally, your risks of, I don't know, I think the backup program for local machines
That
isn't good.
include police and fire department?
No,
Those guys are on their own, I think. What do you guys use in the fire?
I store everything locally on my desktop, other than, and I have a remote access into that server so I can
Yep.
check fundware.
Dave, I can address that. I've got
Yeah.
the report here. I'll just quote what
Oh,
he's
good.
got on here. Among municipal departments, it's unclear how much town information and data are saved and stored on the main server, which is backed up daily through Mozy Pro.
Yep, Mozy,
Pro.
yep, yeah. That's an offsite
It's a
backup.
purchased online service. Among staff and departments, the accountant's general ledger is backed up online through Fundware,
Yep.
which is a separate one, and the fire department reports are backed up online through Firehouse software.
No,
Well, that's what he's got on here.
it's wrong.
Not correct.
Well-
It's backed up to a thumb drive I take home with me.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Jimmy,
that-
those are actually good points, and I think if we go back to the original contract when we started talking with Comcast back 10 years ago, 12 years ago, when we first started talking about it, the idea was to get us all connected so that we could communicate back. Just because you're not here in this building
Right,
wouldn't prevent you being tied in
right.
with a
I
system.
know police and fire can log into Fundware remotely,
Yeah,
and I can view,
Right.
and we've made a workaround so I can print locally on my,
On your
Workbench.
machine, yep.
yeah, but you should be, your computers should be, you're absolutely right.
right, I mean, so I don't.
But how would you do it?
Not knowing that, what else the server was used for, that's why I asked the question, is it just used for the accounting, or is there more to it that we?
Well, he continued on, collector and treasurer are backed up into the point software, into tapes. And, well, Patriot Properties pulls data from the assessor's files.
Right.
So they're really on a separate system.
The Patriot stuff is, yeah.
Patriot, right. And police are separate, fire, so,
Police, that's what I'm saying.
and this was their report from, the technology review for
Yeah,
August.
and that's the type of stuff that we actually need to start looking at is,
Yeah.
some of the stuff is separate now, and that we need to really look at, is that the best way to do it? So, all right, so we'll have to talk to Margaret about,
If we were gonna start,
that.
consolidating everything and including the telecom servers and so forth into one server room, then.
That would be the
I can
ideal.
see where, if that becomes
But you
the
should be,
main
Jimmy.
server for it, I can.
Right, that's what we should be doing.
I mean, you should be though.
Right.
It should,
But
I would
Everything
think.
is independent right now, there's no,
Right, and that's what we've got to start changing, Because then, especially too, then you've got your server backups, we've got local backups to tape, and then we have got that Mozy, which is your offsite backup, right? So if something happens to the building,
Yeah, which is why I take my stuff home.
it is good to have offsite, yep. Yes.
At our meeting, we also looked at one of the cost estimates, and one of the things that came up, that there were package deals or something for other different software or upgrades for that Novell or whatever. Is there,
Novell worker.
Well,
or
for
the school?
you're talking about the estimates
Right.
that Phoenix gave the town?
Yeah, I think there was like a 10 client license for
Yeah.
Novell worker.
Bruce, if you could just take a look at that estimate and just find out what the hardware cost would be.
The hardware cost, if I remember, was like 1,300 or something like that.
1335.
Yeah. A lot of the cost for, so the bigger chunk is associated as labor
Then there was a
for getting it set
Well, I'm
up.
sorry.
downgrading the server to
So-
2008.
Oh, hold on one second.
See, yeah.
The actual server was 1929.
Yep, okay.
That 1335 was the user fee on the, it's a one-year subscription. The
So-
UTM 120 Full Guard, which I guess is the protective software or the,
Bruce, one thing that I don't understand is that when the server goes down, it knocks down the work that's going on in the collector treasurer's office, the assessor's office, and our office. So why, if these things are being stored in funware off-site and everything, why is our server interrupting operations throughout the entire building?
Well, I think what's probably happening is the funware software itself
Right.
is,
It's running on the server.
yeah, exactly. And then anything that, like the data files that people are using are what's on the server here. So that gets knocked out.
well, I thought accounting has their own separate server with the funware on it.
See, I don't think so, Bruce.
No, we remote desktop into the server and used it directly off the server.
You do.
And-
Yeah.
Off of this server here.
They were
right?
talking about in the
So
report that,
it's actually like I'm sitting at that keyboard and.
Right.
So when you're at the fire station, you come into the town server for funware.
For funware, correct.
So that's how, but
because
the
I read
data's
in
not.
here that accounting had their own separate server, and I don't know if they got the
That's the
funware
server
on
we're
it.
talking about, is the accounting, the server that's in.
No, but I mean,
accounting
there's the
server.
town server, and then there was a separate accounting server, which they talk about in here.
I think they're the same machine.
Well, I don't know why they'd say there was two
Tommy,
servers.
you
We
know?
only have the one server sits on the table in the corner,
Down
right?
there,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So where's telecommunication server?
It's- It's the Nexus.
The Nexus up
The
here.
Nexus
We're
that
not
controls
tied into your server at all.
at all.
We're on our own separate server, our own separate unit. Through Nexus up here.
Yeah. Between a single workstation and Nexus.
That's interesting.
We
We're
got,
not
we
part
got a
of
lot
that.
of stuff to review as far as technology goes.
But our Nexus
know where
server
you're
doesn't
going.
do the same thing as the accounting
No,
server does. It's
I know where
completely
you're
different.
going with that,
Yeah.
but we're not even connected to that at all.
I know,
It's
I'm
totally
just
separate.
wondering why you're not. I
Well,
don't
that's,
had,
that's how our system was designed, so with our own
They
server.
had the Nexus long before you had
Yeah.
the server.
Plus the
could
Nexus
see
has
that,
enough of hardware storage capability to take and store the media files there.
See, that's
Yeah.
another reason that we don't feel that this is in any way connected to any of the STC equipment obligations.
Okay.
And, I took a look the next day. I went back to my office and then logged into the server just to see what was on it. And each department has their own folder, but nobody's using it.
Yeah, and that's one of the problems
You know,
that we've got to address.
Number
And
one,
I think,
I never knew I had a folder on the server.
yeah, and I think that's one of the problems of being a small town, is we don't have
Right.
the budget for a dedicated IT person who would be out there telling you, hey, you've got, and actually now that, we'll kind of address it now, is that, hey, you guys, you have folders out there, start using them, please. Because, it's the same thing, like, we run into the same issue at our company. If you're storing your stuff off the network on your local machine, you're taking a big risk, because the networks are backed up every day, so your data's backed up, and,
so,
I'll be glad to help. However I can.
so tell me, when you go with VT1, right, virtual town hall, or whatever we call it,
Oh, okay.
It's-
all
Yep.
right? So, how does information from, let's say, the planning board minutes get onto VT, the virtual town hall? So now,
They have to
so if they were on the
They're gonna
server,
log
That
in
won't
through
be
their
on our
server.
server.
huh?
That's
That'll
not
be
Well, no,
on
no, no,
site.
I know, but
No.
if they were on our server, then whoever the webmaster is, if the planning board is using their folder, then you would just go into that folder and grab it from that folder.
You are correct, right. 'cause you've
Today,
gotta
how
the
would you
minutes
get,
from
today, how do you get it now?
You'd have to upload it to
You'd have to upload
VTH's
it.
server.
Like right now, somebody has to go and manually upload it from,
Yeah, the website's not
Wherever.
gonna be hosted on our server at all.
Yeah,
It
I'm sure it's
also-
way too big,
But-
yeah, but I'm just trying to figure out how Tommy's gonna, if Tommy's doing it, how he's gonna access, and this is, I'm not talking about who pays what, I think you know what I'm talking about, right, Tom?
I totally understand what you're talking about.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
well, how is Tom, because the biggest problem David has found out as doing the webmaster now is he can put everything, he can get everything set up, but how, if it's just for him, it's just a copy, paste, it's easy, but he has to find the data, and right now he can't find the data, because where is it?
right, because like right now, I have to have
It's either
somebody
on Wendy's
email me
computer or
something.
Cindy's computer, or,
You're
That's
right, it's
exactly
on
it.
Wendy's
all on
computer,
it.
it's on,
we have a file server downstairs that we're not using to the capability that it could be used.
Right.
And
That-
it
that's
was
what I
used as a
was
central file
Not about
server, and everybody was
cost,
storing
but-
their files.
Right,
in
no, I
that
understand.
drive off of it.
how's the virtual town
Exactly.
hall?
And eventually, when,
We had an X drive or an S drive or whatever you wanna call it. and everybody
Right, 'cause
was
he could
using
go
the
on
X
that,
drive.
go into the thing once a week or whatever it is, and pull the
Well-
files from wherever.
Right, but I mean, if we set up an X drive, a shared file folder for the town, and then within that, that's where the police department has their
That's-
restricted access folder.
That's exactly how it should be.
Fire department has theirs,
Right.
you know, and you have to have permission to log into that, you know, and with everybody being on a peer-to-peer network right now, we can't do it.
and in the perfect world, when VTH is up and fully operational, and all the departments are putting their information into one spot, that's what it's gonna be. But right now,
Well, right, you still have that issue of, in other words, let's assume, you know, it's up and running, everybody's putting the stuff, you still have to get those minutes from somewhere.
Right.
And that's where it should be.
That's the hard part, that's
Right,
what we're
and
not doing
that's-
right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether
And-
You're
it's
not doing
email,
it
it's a
now,
link to a
and also
shared
for a
drive.
while, each department still could back up their own information on their own computers. We would just have to go into, whoever's, in Tom's case, into VTH, he'd have to go into that particular server or computer, get that information and bring it over.
Well, and that's it, and every department doesn't have a computer, that's part of the issue, but I think we're gonna have to come up with some, and this is part of the procedures that we're gonna have to draft as a town essentially is,
Right.
you know, you've got Department A or B or committee or whatever, they're coming up with their minutes, we need to have those dropped in a central spot that can be accessed by you, so you don't have to worry about going over to all the other ones, in other words, you know, the Historic Commission's got a meeting, here's our minutes and our agenda, we're gonna plunk them down in a central, you know, like a Dropbox.
Right.
Then you go in and you grab it and post it, you
And,
know, that type of stuff will have to
and
work.
that's something that was definitely touched upon when we met a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Is that the part of this web development team is gonna be sitting down and looking at, basically like with Margaret's, assistance and how to organize all this stuff to take and get it into
Well-
a good workflow.
And that's really been the issue, and I still maintain that, you know, it's not the software, because the software that we've got can do everything that virtual town hall can do. And more even, actually, I'd posit, for like far less money, so I wanna make sure that we're getting our bang for our buck.
Exactly, yeah.
Because we're spending thousands of dollars more every year for the same service. But, and so we still have to deal with the administration of it. That's not gonna change no matter what service we use, so we gotta be on top of that, and that's something we're really gonna have to, and then, and this gets off of, well, actually, let's wrap this up first, and then.
Well, I just, one question, Dave, on the, estimate.
Yeah.
Was this the only company that gave you an estimate, or have you talked to other people about it?
Yeah, and I think it was from our service provider, our IT service provider,
Okay.
so,
The only reason I'm questioning, maybe someone would have a
Well-
different idea, less money.
Yep,
You
you
know.
may be able to go. I think the issue there is, because if you're just talking straight off the rack server stuff, I'm sure we could get the equipment less, but
Right.
it's not just the equipment, it's the IT service that
Mhm.
comes with it. So it would entail getting
Right.
another IT service provider, but that is something that we're actually looking at
Okay,
as part of the overall technology package, because we really need to drag ourselves out of the 90s. And we've been talking about like getting iPads and things like that, and it's not just getting the iPads.
Mhm.
That's really the tiniest part of it. That's the back end of it.
exactly.
It's all of the stuff in terms of the workflow that we have to manage and everything.
Right.
So that's part of a whole
Part
other
of the whole
beast we gotta
package,
tackle, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, you know, sometimes you get another estimate on something like this, and he may have some other ideas. You know, which
It
would be
could
less
be, yeah.
expensive, maybe.
I think
don't know.
one of the issues is that we're kind of up against the wall at this point with the server. You know, it's gotten to a point where it's very,
When they do a regular reboot, does it come right back up and run for a while?
sometimes not. And
Yeah.
they've had times where it's just really
That could
going
be a
down.
power issue.
It could be a number of things, and I think at this point it probably is. It's not
Yeah.
just the power supply, you know, we've had hard drive problems and,
Yeah.
you know. And you get to the point where, you know, popping a new motherboard in there is gonna be a fair chunk.
Mhm.
And at that point, you
Yeah.
know, it's the same analysis you make. I mean, you know, I'm gonna spend this much to fix this old clunker, or do I wanna just go out and buy a new one, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Have you looked into the laws as to why it's contraction?
I have not done that personally, no. I don't know about that.
See, whatever laws are being generated in practice?
Yeah, I don't know. I imagine our IT guy would have that information if you wanna talk to him, you know? But, any other, questions on this guy?
With the estimate that, I think everything was kind of pulled together quickly before our meeting and that.
Hmm.
Would you consider you know, it's gonna be another few weeks or so, but, with Christmas and everything, but because it's tabled in that, if you got more information and/or did some research as to a different vendor or whatever, to resubmit it to the telecommunications for review
Mhm.
at our
You
next
can talk to
meeting.
Margaret about it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try but I think, I mean, that's one problem, but the other, there's the same time, it's to make, when you talk to people in town about the use of the webpage,
Yep.
it's not happening, and I don't think it's because of the webpage, whoever the webmaster is, I think it's the information, the format is there, it's just putting the information so people can access
Right,
it.
getting it up there.
We have all those minutes. We have all those minutes are here. They're on file. There's not,
You gotta be able to get to them.
so that's one. And then Jim made a very good point. If we have a server and you have a folder and you're not using it, then the information, you know, we shouldn't be paying extra if you don't need to be. So we could be, if we're backing it up here, then, you know, we shouldn't have 3 or 4 or 5 different separate. And not only that, but even though Funware is backing stuff up, shouldn't we be backing stuff? Our stuff should be backed up anyways here,
Right.
just because most places, if your critical data is stored more than one place anyways,
Oh, yeah.
back.
Yeah.
So,
From an administrative point, what would it take to increase your technology fund to cover things like this without a problem? I mean, is this money that has to be voted on through town meeting
well, if
for
the
technology?
houses within
Would,
300 feet
okay.
of town hall would agree to increase of the tax rate, I think we do it pretty easily.
Come on over, we'll work something out. Do that, you know?
And then,
You know, speaking of website, I can show you right here how many hits we've got each day. We had 202 hits today.
the town of Sunderland, what were you doing at work today?
People
I was
get-
off today, so it
People
wasn't
were-
me.
Trying to access it
It
to
was
see if the
not me.
office is open.
But,
Probably
Wasn't me, not even
And
one
just like
today.
they're probably trying to people figure out if we got school today or not, you know?
and for you real digit heads out there, we had 32 of those hits were robotic and 70 were uniques. So,
Or robotic.
Breadcrumb.
yeah.
Webs.
Google or, you know, some other thing. And 70 of them, so 70 of them were from people who didn't hit the site before or erased their cookies, but, you know. That's a whole other
I mean, we
issue.
got new people out there that are seeing what's going on.
You know, hey, that could
Yeah,
very
we'll-
well be.
We'll do that, Tommy. We'll.
Either that or
I'll ask
Tom's
Mark.
going to different
Were they-
computers
were
at
they able to
UMass and
work-
Yeah,
logging in
logging
just to
in.
make it look good.
That's right, getting our,
Referred links, they clicked through from another site,
um,
or was everybody direct enter?
I can tell you. Let's see. 105 were directs. 59, and this is over the last 2 days. There was a total of 191 referrers, 105 from direct, 59 from Google, 11 from search, 7 within the town. For those of you looking for alternates to Google, there's 3 came in from DuckDuckGo. So,
DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo, it's another, and 1 came from Google in the UK. That's interesting.
No, Sunderland.
Well, there's a
Sunderland.
Sunderland, there's a Sunderland, England.
Sunderland, England.
Well, that's probably it,
Yes.
right, because we're named after that. So,
Sunderland, England.
Well, we're after the Earl of Sunderland, not the town of, the city of, actually, it's a huge city.
it
They
is.
got- They got their own
Industrial from the
they
north.
got their own football club.
300,000 or something like this?
Yeah, it's a big town.
It's a big thing.
Up in the industrial north.
Colors are red and white.
But, and I think one of the things as part of all this too is we're gonna have to, especially with, we're gonna have to revisit the STC and what does the STC mean now, you know?
Exactly.
Because if the prime charter was to do the filming and all of that, and we're not doing that anymore, we need to, all part of all the
Of
fun
course,
stuff
this was
we
the
gotta
ultimate
do.
goal eventually, was to have FCAT up and
Do it,
doing the duties anyway,
okay.
so.
They've become more and more
More and more
overseeing
involved.
technology.
It was slow getting,
I mean, technology's changed so
Operational,
much
but-
since we started.
It's changed in the last 6 months,
oh, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so.
Did you, I was gonna give you a copy of that bill we got for the FCAT. Did you get a copy of that?
Which
Be
one?
paid? For the,
I thought I saw an email about that today.
I may not have brought it with me, but I'm sure Margaret has it.
Yeah.
For our share of the FCAT,
Yeah, I thought I
consulting.
saw that,
okay.
but,
Because we obviously recommended you pay it, so.
we have any other STC things we'd like to, chew the fat on? No?
I think that's important information. Let
It is.
Margaret know that Jimmy says he'll be able to give her a hand if he wants some help with that. So we'll just, note in the minutes, so pass
Yeah.
it on to Margaret.
Whatever I can do from my former career. What time am I at?
I have to be Margaret too, so I'm like writing this down, that's why I'm quiet, so.
Yeah, many talents.
All right. All set? All right, thanks, guys.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Very good.
Have a good night. Let's see, so we took care of that, so now we're down to, do we have any board updates?
Nope.
And we'll skip the town administrator update because she's absent this evening, so that brings us down to license renewals, the common vic and class 2 license renewal.
Do you have a list of the stuff that?
do.
Where is it?
Our license list right here. We can go off that, right? Because we have class 2 is check this fabulous worksheet.
Oh, they're not gonna give us before they gave us a listing.
I don't know if we actually got a separate. I know, usually we have that other thing.
Yeah, we can do that next week, David.
Okay. Then I think that about wraps it up.
Okay.
Any other points of note or anything?
Nope.
All right, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
All right, second, and we'll adjourn this meeting at,
Aye.
right, all those in favor?
Aye.
At 7:47 PM.
6:47, 7:47?
7:47.
Wow.
All right, thanks.